Captain Hyunwoo stood at the front window of his ship, watching the blue dot grow bigger in the dark space ahead. After so many years, Earth looked exactly like the old pictures his grandmother had shown him. The same blue oceans, the same white clouds spinning around the planet like cotton candy. But something was wrong. His ship's computers were showing massive metal structures floating around Earth, huge stations and rings that had never been there before. These were not human buildings. "Captain," said Sora, walking up behind him. She was his second officer and had been with him for 20 years. "Our long-range sensors are picking up movement. Lots of ships around Earth. They're not ours." Hyunwoo nodded slowly. He had expected this, but seeing it was different. "How long since our ancestors left this place?" 500,000 years, sir," Sora replied. "Give or take a few centuries." The old man's voice came through the ship's speakers then. It wasn't really old Wu Jin speaking. He had died 300 years ago. But his mind lived on in the ship's computer, telling the same story he had told for generations. "Listen well, children of Earth," the voice said. "Let me tell you again why we are here, floating in the cold between the stars, coming home after so long away." Hyunwoo had heard this story 1,000 times, but he never got tired of it. Every human child on the fleet grew up hearing about the day their people were forced to leave. Long ago, when your great-great-grandparents were young, Earth was part of something called the Dominion. 12 different alien races ruled the galaxy together. They had been in charge for millions of years, and they thought they knew everything. The voice paused, and Hyunwoo could picture old Wu Jin's face wrinkled and sad. But then humans started spreading to other planets. We built cities on Mars. We put colonies around Jupiter. We were good at surviving, good at adapting, good at making new places our home. The aliens got scared. Sora touched a button, and the main screen showed pictures from the old days. Humans in spacesuits building the first Mars dome. Children playing in the low gravity of the moon. Families starting new lives among the stars. The Dominion said humans were too dangerous. They said we bred too fast, spread too far, wanted too much. They gave Earth's leaders a choice. Take all humans and leave the galaxy forever, or watch every human world burn. The pictures changed to show the great ships being built. Millions of humans working together, building the largest vessels ever made. Ships big enough to hold entire cities, with farms and schools and everything needed for the long journey ahead. Our leaders chose life over pride. Better to live in exile than die fighting a war we could not win. So we built the great fleet and sailed into the dark between galaxies, carrying the seed of humanity with us. Hyunwoo remembered his father, telling him about the early years. How hard it was to live on the ships. How many people got sick from being away from Earth. How some wanted to turn around and go back even if it meant war. But we did not just survive, the voice continued. We grew stronger. We learned. We changed. The dark between galaxies taught us things the Dominion never knew. We met other species, other exiles like ourselves. We traded knowledge, shared technology, became more than we had ever been before. Dr. Minho appeared on the bridge then, carrying his data pad. He was the smartest person on the ship, maybe in the whole fleet. His face was serious. "Captain," he said quietly, "I need to show you something. Our scans of Earth, they're not good." The screen changed to show what their sensors were seeing. The beautiful blue planet was still there, but now Hyunwoo could see the details. Strange colors in the oceans. Cities that looked nothing like human cities. And everywhere, signs that this was no longer the world humans had left behind. "What happened to our home?" Sora whispered. "They took it," Minho said simply. "The Dominion moved in after we left. They changed everything to suit themselves." Hyunwoo felt anger building in his chest. 500,000 years ago, the aliens had told humans to leave or die. They had promised that Earth would be left alone, a memorial to the species that once lived there. But they had lied. "Sir," said the communications officer, a young woman named Hirin. "We're getting signals from those orbital stations. They want us to identify ourselves." "Open a channel," Hyunwoo ordered. The screen flickered, And suddenly, they were looking at an alien face. It looked like it was made of crystal with light dancing inside its head. When it spoke, the computer translated its words into human language. Unknown vessels, you are entering protected space. State your purpose or be destroyed. Hyunwoo stepped forward. This is Captain Hyunwoo of the human fleet. We have returned to reclaim our homeworld. The crystal being's light flickered in. What might have been laughter. Humans? Impossible. That species died out long ago. You must be some kind of mistake. No mistake, Hyunwoo said calmly. We are the children of Earth, and we have come home. Even if you are human, the alien said, you have no claim here. Earth belongs to the Dominion now. It has been ours for hundreds of thousands of years. Leave immediately or face the consequences. The channel closed, and the bridge was quiet for a moment. Orders, sir? Sora asked. Hyunwoo looked out at Earth again. His Earth. Humanity's Earth. The world where his species had been born, where they had taken their first steps toward the stars. Signal the rest of the fleet, he said. Tell them we've found what we came for. Earth is occupied by hostile forces. Are we going to fight, sir? Asked young Hiren. Hyunwoo smiled, but it was not a kind smile. My child, we spent 500,000 years getting ready for this moment. We crossed the empty dark between galaxies. We learned from species the Dominion never met. We became something they can't imagine. He turned to face his crew. Every one of them was descended from the exiles, born on the great ships, raised on stories of the home they had never seen. Send this message to all ships, he ordered. The exile is over. Earth's children have returned, and this time, we're not leaving. Behind him, the orbital stations around Earth were starting to move. Alien warships were powering up their weapons, preparing to drive off what they thought was a small group of primitive humans. They had no idea what was coming for them. Minho looked at his datapad again and smiled. Captain, should I prepare the new weapons? Not yet, Hyunwoo said. Let them make the first move. Let them think they know what they're dealing with. The lesson will be more complete that way. Sora nodded. She understood. The aliens had no idea that the humans they were facing were not the same species that had left so long ago. They would learn soon enough. All ships report ready, sir, Hiren announced. Good, Hyunwoo said. Now we wait, and when they attack us thinking we're weak and helpless, they'll discover what 500,000 years of exile can do to a species that refuses to die. Earth hung in space before them, beautiful and lost, but not lost forever. The children were home, and they had grown strong in the dark. Commander Ji-hai moved carefully through the ruins of what had once been Seoul. Her team followed behind her, their footsteps making no sound on the strange metal ground that covered everything. Above them, alien buildings reached toward the gray sky like twisted fingers. The air was poisoned to normal humans, but Ji-hai and her team were not normal humans anymore. Their bodies had been changed during the long exile, made stronger, made able to survive in places their ancestors never could. They breathed the toxic air and felt nothing. Command, this is Reconnaissance Team 7. Ji-hai spoke into her communicator. We've reached the target zone. Beginning surface scan now. Back on the ship, Captain Hyunwoo listened to her report. Every word made him angrier. Earth was not just occupied. It had been completely changed. The aliens had taken everything that made it human and replaced it with their own vision. Tell me what you see, he said quietly. The oceans are gone, sir, replaced with some kind of methane sea. The air is full of chemicals that would kill our ancestors in minutes. And the cities... Ji-hai paused, looking around at the alien structures, built on top of human foundations. They built their cities on top of ours, sir, like we never existed. Lieutenant Kunwoo knelt beside what looked like a piece of concrete with strange markings on it. He brushed away the alien dirt and saw familiar symbols underneath, Korean writing, carved into the stone centuries ago. Commander, he called, softly. Over here. Ji-hai joined him and saw what he had found. It was a marker stone from one of Seoul's old subway stations. The alien builders had used it as part of their foundation, not even caring what it was. Keep looking, Ji-hai ordered. There might be more. They moved deeper into the ruins, following what had once been streets but were now just gaps between alien buildings. Kunwu's scanner started beeping faster as they approached a section that looked different from the rest. Underground structure, he reported. Looks like it was sealed off before the aliens built on top. It took them 20 minutes to find the entrance. Hidden beneath layers of alien construction was a heavy door made of human steel. The lock was electronic, but their technology was far more advanced than the old human systems. Inside, they found a treasure. My God, whispered Kunwu, looking around the hidden chamber. The room was full of human artifacts, pictures, books, computers, even some clothing. Everything had been carefully preserved by whoever had hidden it here. And on the main computer, still working after all these centuries, was a message. Ji-hai activated the computer with a touch. A hologram appeared, showing an elderly Korean woman in clothes from the old Earth. If you are seeing this, the woman said, then you are either the aliens come to destroy what little we have left, or you are our children, returned from the stars. I pray it is the latter. The hologram flickered, but continued speaking. My name is Dr. Park Yoon-young. I was part of the team that stayed behind when the Great Fleet left. We were supposed to keep watch over Earth to make sure the Dominion kept their promise to leave it alone. Ji-hai felt her heart beating faster. Some humans had stayed. She had never heard this story before. But they lied. The hologram continued. Within 50 years of your departure, they began to change our world. They said it was temporary, just some improvements to make it more efficient. But we knew the truth. They were erasing us. The image changed to show pictures of early Dominion. Construction, human cities being torn down, the oceans being drained and replaced, forests being cut down to make room for alien factories. We resisted at first. There were maybe 1 million of us left on Earth, against billions of aliens. But what could we do? They had weapons we could not fight, technology we could not match, so we hid. We preserved what we could, and we hoped that someday our brothers and sisters would return. Kunwu was looking at other files on the computer. His face was pale with shock. Commander, he said quietly, there are more recordings. Hundreds of them. They span nearly the entire time since the fleet left. Ji-hai selected one from just 1,000 years ago. A different person appeared, a young man who looked thin and tired. This is Kim Jae-sung, Generation 347 of the Earth Watchers. The aliens have found another one of our hiding places. We lost 15 people yesterday, including 2 children. But we still have copies of the Soul Archive safe. As long as one of us lives, humanity will be remembered on Earth. Another recording from 500 years ago. This time it was a woman who looked barely human anymore. Her skin was pale, her eyes too large for her face. The aliens are changing us now. They say it's for our own good, to help us work better in their factories. But I know what they're really doing. They're making us into something else, something that will forget what we used to be. Ji-hee closed the file. Her hands were shaking with rage. The Dominion had not just taken Earth, they had enslaved the humans who stayed behind, slowly turning them into something else over the centuries. Commander, Kunwu's voice was tight with emotion. There's something else. The computer shows there are still human settlements on Mars, and they're still alive. Back on the fleet flagship, Ambassador Yoon-ji was having her own conversation with the Dominion. The Alien Council had finally agreed to meet with her, though they made it clear they thought it was a waste of time. The council chamber was a huge room filled with representatives from all 12 species of the Dominion. At the center sat the same crystal being that Captain Hyunwoo had spoken to earlier. So you claim to be human, the being said, its light pulsing slowly. We find this difficult to believe. Humans were a primitive species with short lifespans and limited intelligence. You seem different. We are human, Yoon-ji said simply. We are just not the same humans who left this galaxy 500,000 years ago. Even if that is true, said another alien, this one looking like a giant insect. You have no claim to Earth. Your species abandoned it. Under galactic law, it became available for colonization. Your law, Yunji replied. Not ours. We never agreed to give up our home. The crystal being's light flashed brighter. You had a choice, leave or die. You chose to leave. That makes Earth ours by right of conquest. And what about the humans who stayed? Yunji asked. What right did you have to enslave them? For a moment, the council was silent. Then the insect, alien, spoke. There were no humans left on Earth when we arrived. Any records suggesting otherwise are clearly false. But Yunji could see the truth in the way they looked at each other. They knew exactly what they had done. We have evidence, she said calmly. Video records, testimonies, proof of your crimes against my people. Even if such evidence existed, the crystal being said, it would not matter. Earth belongs to the Dominion now. It has been ours for hundreds of thousands of years. We have invested too much to simply give it back to a species that may or may not be human. Then we have nothing more to discuss, Yunji said, standing up. Indeed we do not, the crystal being agreed. Our defense fleets are already moving to intercept your ships. You have 1 day to leave our space. If you refuse, you will be destroyed. Yunji smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You should know something about us before you make threats. We did not spend 500,000 years in exile learning how to run away. We learned how to fight. She turned and walked out of the council chamber, leaving the aliens to discuss among themselves. Behind, Hershey heard one of them say, "How dangerous could they be? They're just humans." Back on Earth's surface, Ji-Hai was leading her team back to their ship when Kunwu made another discovery. Hidden in the ruins of an old hospital, he found recent signs of human habitation. Food containers, makeshift beds, and most importantly, people. They were barely recognizable as human anymore. Generations of alien genetic modification had made them tall and thin, with pale skin and large eyes. But when one of them spoke, it was in Korean. "Are you real?" the person asked, looking up at Ji-Hai with wonder. "Are you really from the ships?" "We're real," Ji-Hai said gently. "We've come home." The person began to cry. "I am Hyejin, descendant of the Soul Watchers. We have kept the memories alive, waiting for this day. We never forgot who we were." Ji-Hai helped Hyejin to her feet. "Tell me about the others. How many of you are left?" "Thousands on Earth. Maybe millions on Mars and the outer colonies. The aliens use us for labor, but they don't watch us closely anymore. They think we're too weak to cause trouble." "They're wrong," Ji-Hai said firmly. "Earth's children have returned, and we're nothing like what we used to be." Admiral Tejo watched the Dominion fleet approach on his command screen. Hundreds of alien warships moved through space in perfect formation, their weapons charging with deadly energy. They outnumbered the human fleet 10-1. "Sir," said his tactical officer, "they're powering up their main guns. Range in 30 seconds. Signal all ships," Tejo said calmly. "Weapons free. Show them what we learned in the dark." Jin-A sat in her fighter cockpit, feeling the familiar connection flow through her mind. Around her, 1,000 other human pilots felt the same thing, the link that joined them all together, making them move as one perfect unit. This was humanity's greatest secret. During the long exile, they had learned to connect their minds across space and time. Not like a hive mind where everyone thought the same thoughts, but like a symphony, where every instrument played its own part in perfect harmony. "Flight leader to all units," Ginny spoke into her communicator, but she didn't really need to. Every pilot already knew what to do. "Let's dance." The Dominion ships fired first, filling space with beams of deadly energy. But the human ships were no longer where the aliens expected them to be. Jin-A's fighter twisted through space like a leaf in the wind, moving in ways that should have been impossible. The alien weapons passed harmlessly by as she and her squadron dove toward the enemy fleet. "How are they doing that?" came a panicked alien voice over the communication channels. "Their ships are too fast." But it wasn't just speed. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, each one knowing exactly where the others would be. They flowed around the alien weapons like water, striking at weak points with surgical precision. Commander Seok Jin watched the battle from the flagship, his enhanced mind processing information at impossible speeds. He could see the entire battlefield at once, tracking every ship, predicting every move the aliens would make. "Target their command ship," he ordered, and Jin's squadron was already moving before he finished speaking. The aliens had better weapons, stronger shields, more advanced technology. But they had never faced an enemy that could think as one while still being many. Every human ship was connected to every other, sharing information instantly across vast distances. "Their coordination is impossible," screamed an alien commander. "They're reading our minds somehow." Young Mi intercepted the alien communications from her post on the flagship. The panic in their voices was growing with every passing minute. "Admiral," she reported, "the enemy fleet is breaking formation. They're trying to retreat." "Let them go," Taeho said, "but make sure they understand what they just saw." Jin pursued the fleeing aliens, her weapons painting their hulls with precise strikes that disabled, but did not destroy. She wanted them to survive, to carry the message back to their leaders. "This is impossible," one alien captain transmitted. "We had them outnumbered 10-1. How did they defeat us so easily?" Jinny activated her external communicators so the aliens could hear her voice. "You forgot something important. We had 500,000 years to get ready for this fight." Back on the flagship, Dr. Minho was analyzing the captured alien technology. What he found confirmed what the humans had suspected during their long exile. "Admiral," he reported, "their weapons are powerful but crude. Their ships are tough but slow. Their tactics are centuries out of date." "They got comfortable," Taeho agreed. "When you rule the galaxy for millions of years without a real challenge, you stop growing." But humans had never stopped growing. During their exile, they had met dozens of other species in the dark between galaxies. Pirates and refugees, traders and explorers, beings that the Dominion had never heard of. Each contact had taught them something new. Their ships used technology borrowed from a race of energy beings who lived in the heart of dying stars. Their weapons were based on designs from a species that had mastered matter itself. Their armor came from creatures who had learned to survive in the empty void between dimensions. "Signal the fleet," Taeho ordered. "Phase 2 begins now." Across the solar system, human forces moved toward their next targets. The asteroid belt held the Dominion's main mining operations, protected by what the aliens called their impregnable fortress. Captain So Young approached the asteroid fortress in her heavy cruiser, studying the massive structure through her ship's sensors. It was built into the largest asteroid in the belt, bristling with weapons and shields. "This is Dominion Defense Station Alpha," came a transmission from the fortress. "You are in violation of protected space. Surrender immediately, or be destroyed," So Young smiled. "This is Captain So Young of the human fleet. I'm here to give you a choice. Leave now or learn why fortresses are useless against an enemy that can walk through walls." "Impossible," the alien commander replied. "Our shields can stop any weapon. Our armor is impenetrable." "Your shields stop energy and matter," So Young agreed. "But do they stop thought?" She closed her eyes and reached out with her mind, feeling for the familiar presence of her Special Forces team. They were already inside the fortress, having passed through solid matter as easily as walking through air. This was another gift from the exile. Humanity had met beings of pure energy who had taught them to exist in multiple dimensions at once. With enough training and the right technology, a human could step sideways out of normal space and reappear anywhere they chose. "Fortress Command, this is Infiltration Team Leader Dong Hyun," came a calm voice over the human communication channel. "We're in position at the main reactor, ready to proceed." "Do it," So Young ordered. Inside the fortress, Dong Hyun and his team appeared like ghosts in the heart of the alien stronghold. The Dominion defenders didn't even see them until it was too late. The humans moved with inhuman speed and precision, their bodies enhanced beyond anything their ancestors could have imagined. They didn't kill the alien defenders. They simply put them to sleep with weapons that targeted the nervous system directly. In less than 5 minutes, the most heavily defended position in the solar system was under human control. Fortress Alpha to Defense Command, So Young transmitted, using the aliens' own communication system. This facility is now under human management. Please update your records. The response came in a dozen different alien languages, all expressing the same impossible confusion. How had their strongest fortress fallen so quickly? How had the humans gotten inside without triggering a single alarm? They're like ghosts, one alien commander reported to his superiors. They appear and disappear at will. Our weapons can't touch them. Our defenses are useless. But the humans were just getting started. Across the outer planets, more Dominion positions fell with shocking speed. Each defeat taught the aliens the same lesson. They were no longer fighting the primitive species that had fled the galaxy long ago. Jupiter's orbital station surrendered without a fight when human ships simply appeared inside their defensive perimeter, having traveled through dimensions the aliens didn't even know existed. Saturn's ring miners abandoned their equipment and ran, when human forces demonstrated they could manipulate matter at the atomic level, turning the aliens' own weapons against them. This is impossible, the crystal being from the Dominion Council transmitted to Admiral Tejo. You're using technology that violates the basic laws of physics. Your laws, Tejo replied. We learned different laws during our time in the dark. Laws from species you never met, in places you never imagined. The Admiral looked out at the solar system where humanity had been born. Already human ships were moving freely between the planets while Dominion forces fled or surrendered. You wanted us gone because you thought we were dangerous when we were young and weak, he continued. Imagine how dangerous we've become after 500,000 years of growing up in the hardest school in the universe. All across human space, the message was becoming clear. Earth's children had returned, and they were no longer the species that had been forced to leave. They were something new, something the Dominion had never imagined possible, and this was just the beginning. Special Forces operative Dong Hyun stood in the shadows of Mars's largest slave camp, watching the guards patrol between the long rows of barracks. Inside those buildings were thousands of humans, the descendants of those who had stayed behind when the Great Fleet left Earth. But these were not the humans he remembered from the old stories. 500,000 years of genetic manipulation had changed them. They were taller and thinner than normal humans, with pale skin that barely looked alive. Their eyes were too large for their faces, adapted for the dim light of the underground factories where they worked. Team leader, whispered Specialist Chang Min through the communication link. We have visual confirmation. The slaves are definitely human, but they've been heavily modified. Dong Hyun nodded grimly. This was what the Dominion called optimization, changing other species to make them better workers, more obedient, less likely to cause trouble. Remember the orders, he said to his team. We're here to free them, not to judge what they've become. The human forces had learned about the slave camps from the reconnaissance mission to Earth. Hidden in the data archives they had found were records of millions of humans scattered across the solar system, all of them working in Dominion factories and mines. Moving like ghosts, Dong Hyun's team slipped past the alien guards. Their enhanced bodies let them move in complete silence, invisible to the sensors that should have detected them. Within minutes, they had reached the main barracks. Inside, hundreds of enslaved humans lay on thin metal beds, sleeping after another day of forced labor. Dong Hyun approached the nearest one and gently touched her shoulder. The woman woke with a start, fear immediately filling her large eyes. When she saw Dong Hyun's face, she gasped. You're not one of them, she whispered in Old Korean, the language barely recognizable after so many centuries of change. But you're not like us either. What are you? My name is Dong Hyun, he said softly. I'm human like you. My people have come back to take you home. The woman sat up slowly, staring at him in wonder. The fleet? The great ships that left so long ago? But that's just a story the old ones tell. It's not a story, Dong Hyun assured her. We never forgot about Earth. We never forgot about the people who stayed behind. Other enslaved humans were waking up now. Drawn by the quiet conversation, they gathered around Dong-hyun, touching his clothes, his skin, as if they couldn't believe he was real. "I am Hye-jin," the woman said, daughter of Sung-ho, son of Mi-kyung, back to the first watchers who kept the old knowledge alive. "We remember the stories of the sky people who would return someday." Dong-hyun felt his heart breaking as he looked at these people. They had kept their humanity alive despite everything the Dominion had done to them. They had preserved the old stories, the old language, the old hope. "How many of you are there?" he asked. "On Mars, maybe 50,000 in this camp alone. There are other camps, other worlds. We don't know the total number, but it's millions across the solar system." Outside, the alien guards were beginning to notice that something was wrong, but it was too late. Dong-hyun's team had already disabled the camp's communication systems and sealed the exits. "Listen to me," Dong-hyun said to the gathered slaves. "We're going to get you out of here. But first you need to understand something. The people who enslaved you, who changed you, who treated you like animals, they're about to learn what happens when they hurt Earth's children." Meanwhile, on the flagship, Dr. Junho was making a discovery that filled him with rage. The alien prisoners they had captured were giving up information quickly, eager to cooperate with their new human captors. "Admiral," Junho reported to Taeho, his voice tight with controlled anger, "the genetic analysis is complete. You need to see this." The data appeared on the main screen, showing DNA patterns that should have been impossible. Alien genetic sequences mixed with human ones, creating hybrid combinations that had never existed in nature. "They've been using human genetic material," Junho continued, "for centuries, taking our adaptability, our survival instincts, our ability to thrive in different environments and adding it to their own species. Theft," Admiral Taeho said simply. "They stole the best parts of humanity while keeping the source population enslaved." "It gets worse," Junho said. "They've been experimenting on human children, testing different combinations, seeing which modifications work best. The camps aren't just for labor, they're breeding programs." The bridge fell silent as the full horror of what the Dominion had done became clear. They had not just enslaved humanity. They had turned them into a resource to be harvested. "Signal all ships," Taeho ordered, his voice cold with fury. "No more mercy for the aliens. No more accepting surrenders. They wanted to treat humans like animals. Now they'll learn what it feels like." Fleet Admiral Sang-woo was coordinating the liberation of the outer planet colonies when the new orders came through. His forces had been moving carefully, trying to minimize casualties on both sides. Now those restrictions were lifted. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting a large Dominion fleet moving toward Jupiter. Looks like they're trying to evacuate their research stations." "Not happening," Sang-woo said grimly. "All ships, intercept course. Maximum speed." But as the human fleet approached Jupiter, they found something that made even their enhanced minds reel with shock. The Dominion research stations weren't just laboratories. They were factories for processing human genetic material on an industrial scale. "Dear God," whispered Captain Yuna, staring at the sensor readings. "There are millions of humans down there. They're not just enslaved, they're being harvested." The Dominion ships tried to form a defensive line around Jupiter, but it was hopeless. The human fleet moved through their formations like a knife through paper, their coordinated attacks destroying alien ships faster than the eye could follow. "Dominion, Commander," Admiral Sang-woo transmitted to the lead alien ship. "You have 10 seconds to surrender unconditionally. After that, we stop being nice." "We will never surrender to primitives," came the alien reply. "Jupiter belongs to the Dominion. These facilities are vital to our survival." "Wrong answer," Sang-woo said. What happened next became known among the aliens as the Jupiter Horror. Human ships didn't just attack the Dominion vessels. They took them apart at the molecular level, using technology that turned matter itself into a weapon. Entire alien battleships simply ceased to exist, their atoms scattered across space like dust. Others found their own weapons turning against them as human forces took control of their systems remotely. "This is impossible!" screamed an alien captain as his ship began consuming itself from the inside out. You can't control matter at this level. We had good teachers, Sang-woo replied calmly. Species you never met, from places you never imagined. They showed us that reality is much more flexible than you think. Back on Mars, the liberation was proceeding smoothly. But there was resistance from an unexpected source, some of the enslaved humans themselves. You don't understand. One of the slave overseers pleaded with Dong-hyun. If we resist, they'll kill us all. It's better to work to survive than to die fighting. This was Hyejin's uncle, a man who had been given limited authority over the other slaves in exchange for keeping them in line. He had never known anything but slavery, and the idea of freedom terrified him more than continued oppression. They've already killed you, Dong-hyun said gently. They've stolen your children, your future, your very DNA. What we're offering isn't just freedom, it's the chance to be human again. But we're not like you, the overseer protested, looking at Dong-hyun's obviously enhanced body. We're weak. We're different. We don't know how to be free. Then we'll teach you, Dong-hyun promised. That's what family does. Cultural preservation specialist Bora was working at a different kind of liberation. Deep in the data archives of captured Dominion facilities, she was uncovering the full extent of their cultural genocide. Admiral, she reported to Taeho, they've been systematically erasing all records of human existence, not just from Earth but from galactic history itself. According to their official records, humanity never existed. The evidence was overwhelming. Historical documents altered to remove references to humans. Archaeological sites destroyed to eliminate physical proof. Even the records of humanity's exile had been deleted from most databases. They wanted to make it like we never existed, Bora continued, so that future generations would never know. There had been a species called human that challenged the Dominion's authority. But they failed, Taeho said grimly. We kept our own records, our own history, our own identity. And now we're going to make sure the galaxy never forgets who we are. Across the solar system, the message was becoming clear to every Dominion. Force. Humanity had not returned as conquerors. They had returned as judges. And the verdict was already decided. The slaves would be freed. The stolen genetic material would be reclaimed. The cultural genocide would be exposed for all to see. And, the Dominion would learn what it meant to face a species that had spent 500,000 years getting ready for this moment. General Insu stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching as another Dominion world surrendered without a fight. The alien colonies throughout the galaxy were falling faster than his forces could occupy them. Word of humanity's return had spread like wildfire, and most aliens were too terrified to resist. Sir, reported his intelligence officer, we're receiving desperate transmissions from the Dominion Council. They're offering to negotiate. After 500,000 years, now they want to talk, Insu said with cold amusement. What are they offering? Complete withdrawal from human space, restoration of Earth to its original state, and... The officer paused, checking his datapad. They're offering to return all human slaves and pay reparations for damages. Insu laughed, but there was no humor in it. Too little, too late. Signal all fleet commanders, no negotiations, no mercy. They had their chance for mercy when they forced us into exile. But even as human forces swept through the galaxy, they faced a new challenge. The Dominion, desperate and cornered, was using human slaves as shields. Captain So-young received the horrifying transmission while approaching the Dominion stronghold at Vega Prime. On her screen appeared an alien commander, one of the insect-like species that had been part of the original Dominion Council. Human fleet, this is Defense Commander Ziktal. The alien chittered in broken galactic standard. You will halt your advance immediately, or we will execute 10,000 human slaves. Behind the alien, So-young could see them. Humans in chains, thin and pale from generations of slavery, huddled together in terror. You have 30 seconds to respond, the alien continued. Withdraw from this system or watch your own species die. So-young closed the channel and turned to her weapons officer. Lieutenant Jinwoo, are you ready? Yes, ma'am. Selective targeting system is online. Genetic lock is confirmed. This was one of humanity's newest weapons developed during their exile by studying species that could manipulate biology itself. The weapon could identify and target specific DNA patterns, killing some beings while leaving others completely unharmed. "Fire!" So Young ordered. On the alien stronghold, Commander Zichtal was gloating over what he thought was humanity's helplessness when the weapon struck. He felt a strange tingling in his exoskeleton, then looked down to see his body beginning to dissolve at the molecular level. All around him, every alien in the facility was suffering the same fate. But the human slaves remained completely untouched, watching in amazement as their captors simply crumbled to dust. "This is Captain So Young, of the human fleet," came a voice over the facility's speakers. "You are now free. Transport ships are on their way to take you home." Dr. Yan Ho watched the reports of the Vega Prime liberation with deep unease. He was humanity's chief ethics officer, and what he was seeing troubled him greatly. "Admiral," he said to Insu during their daily briefing, "I need to express my concerns about our current tactics." "Speak freely," Insu replied. "We're becoming something our ancestors wouldn't recognize. This genetic targeting weapon, the systematic destruction of entire alien populations, the refusal to accept surrenders, and where does it end?" Insu was quiet for a long moment, then turned to face the doctor. "Tell me, Yan Ho, how many human children did the Dominion experiment on? How many of our people did they grind up for genetic material? How many cultures did they erase from history?" "That doesn't justify, doesn't it?" Insu interrupted. "They showed no mercy when we were weak. They showed no compassion when we were helpless. They treated us like animals for 500,000 years. Now they want mercy from us?" Counselor Heywan joined the conversation, her voice calm but firm. "The doctor raises valid concerns, but we must consider the bigger picture. If we show mercy, now it will be seen as weakness. Other species will think they can treat humanity the same way the Dominion did." "We need to send a message," Insu agreed. "A message that will echo through the galaxy for the next 1,000,000 years. Never threaten humanity's children." The debate was interrupted by an urgent communication from Specialist Chang Min, who had been working on a special project in the Outer Rim. "General," Chang Min reported, "we've made a breakthrough. We can now access Dominion collective consciousness networks. We can turn their own unity against them." This was the key to everything. The Dominion species had evolved to share thoughts and coordinate actions across vast distances. It made them nearly impossible to defeat through conventional warfare because they could adapt and respond as one massive organism. But humanity had learned to hack into those same networks during their exile, studying captured technology and reverse engineering the biological quantum links that connected Dominion minds. "Demonstrate," Insu ordered. Chang Min activated his equipment, and suddenly the bridge could hear alien thoughts, thousands of them, all panicking at once. "The humans are everywhere," one voice said. "They're in our ships, our stations, our minds." "How are they doing this?" another voice pleaded. "We can't trust our own thoughts anymore. They're turning us against each other," a third voice cried. "Species that have worked together for millions of years are suddenly fighting." Chang Min smiled grimly. "By introducing false information into their networks, we can make them see threats that don't exist. Make them paranoid about their allies. Turn their greatest strength into their greatest weakness." "Do it," Insu ordered. "Show them what real warfare looks like." Across the galaxy, Dominion forces began turning on each other. The crystal beings attacked their insect allies, convinced they were plotting betrayal. The gas giant dwellers fired on the machine intelligences, believing they had been compromised by human technology. Meanwhile, Colonel Miran was leading the assault on the Dominion's capital world, where the species leaders had retreated for a final stand. The planet was heavily fortified, surrounded by massive defense stations and protected by the most advanced shields the aliens could create. But human forces simply walked through those defenses, as if they weren't there. "This is impossible," transmitted the same crystal being that had first dismissed humanity's return. "Our shields can stop anything. Our weapons are the most powerful in the galaxy. Your shields stop matter and energy. Miran replied calmly as her forces materialized inside the capital city. They don't stop, Will. The final battle was swift and decisive. Dominion soldiers found their weapons turning to dust in their hands. Their armor became too heavy to move in. Their vehicles refused to respond to commands. The crystal being was brought before Fleet Admiral Kyung-ho in chains made of crystallized time itself, a technology humanity had learned from beings who existed outside normal causality. Please, the alien begged, its light flickering weakly. We surrender. We'll give you everything. Earth, the slaves, the stolen genetic material. Just spare us. Now you want to negotiate, Kyung-ho said coldly. Now when your cities are burning and your fleets are destroyed, you want to talk about mercy. We were wrong, the crystal being admitted. We underestimated your species. We thought you were primitive, violent, unfit to share the galaxy with civilized beings. But we see now that we were the primitive ones. Yes, Kyung-ho agreed. You had millions of years to learn wisdom, and instead you learned arrogance. You had the chance to share the galaxy in peace, and instead you chose domination. What do you want? The alien whispered. Kyung-ho leaned forward, his enhanced eyes reflecting depths of cold fury that the alien had never seen before. You had 500,000 years to show mercy, he said quietly. 500,000 years to release our people, to restore our world, to make amends for your crimes. You chose not to. Every day you chose to continue the oppression, the slavery, the genocide. We'll make amends now, the being pleaded. We'll do anything. Now it's our turn, Kyung-ho continued, as if the alien hadn't spoken. Our turn to decide who lives and who dies. Our turn to choose mercy or justice. Our turn to shape the galaxy according to our will. He stood up, towering over the chained alien leader. And we choose justice. All across the galaxy, the remaining Dominion forces received the same message. Surrender completely and face exile, or continue fighting and face extinction. Most chose exile, fleeing to the dark spaces between galaxies just as humanity once had. But unlike humanity, they would not be coming back stronger. The humans had made sure of that. The galaxy belonged to Earth's children now, and they intended to keep it that way. President Na-Yun stood in the center of what had once been Seoul, but now the city looked nothing like the ruins her people had found when they returned. The alien structures were gone, replaced by buildings that combined the best of old human architecture with technology learned during the long exile. The sky was blue again, filled with clouds that moved naturally in winds that carried the scent of growing things. The Han River flowed clear and clean, its banks lined with trees that remembered the genetic patterns of Earth's original forests. 5 years, she said to herself, watching children play in a park where an alien factory had once stood. 5 years to undo 500,000 years of damage. Not all the damage could be undone. The oceans would take decades to fully restore, even with advanced technology. Some species had been lost forever, their genetic patterns too corrupted by alien interference to recover. But Earth was healing, slowly becoming the world that humanity remembered from their oldest stories. Director Jamin approached from the government building, carrying reports from across the galaxy. As head of the Integration Council, he was responsible for managing the thousands of alien species that had chosen to remain in human space, rather than flee into exile. President, he said, bowing slightly in the old Korean manner. The monthly reports from the outer colonies. Most of the former Dominion species are adapting well to their new circumstances. Most? Na-Un asked, raising an eyebrow. Some resistance on the mining worlds. A few species still believe they can return to the old ways if they just wait long. Enough for humanity to become complacent. Na-Un nodded grimly. This was expected. Not every alien would accept the new reality immediately. Some would need more convincing. What are our options? She asked. The same as always, Jamin replied. Serve willingly as equal partners in building a better galaxy, or join their former masters in exile. We're not interested in ruling slaves. We have enough experience being slaves ourselves. This was humanity's new philosophy, born from their own centuries of suffering. They would not become what the Dominion had been, oppressors who kept other species in chains. But neither would they tolerate any attempt to recreate the old system of alien supremacy. Ambassador Yujin was dealing with similar issues on the far side of the galaxy, where she was establishing contact with civilizations that had never been part of the Dominion. These species watched humanity's expansion with a mixture of curiosity and fear. "We come in peace," she explained to the Council of the Helix Federation, a group of machine intelligences that had remained neutral during the war. "We seek trade, knowledge, and mutual cooperation." "Yet you destroyed the Dominion in a matter of months," replied the lead machine, its voice a harmonious blend of electronic tones. "Species that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years. This suggests capabilities far beyond what any peaceful civilization should possess." Yujin smiled calmly. "The Dominion made the mistake of threatening our children. We responded appropriately. As long as you make no such threats, you have nothing to fear from humanity. And if we choose not to trade with you, not to share our knowledge, that is your right," Yujin said simply. "We will not force you, but understand that the galaxy has changed. The old system where some species ruled over others is gone forever. In its place, we offer something new, a community where all beings can thrive according to their nature, as long as they respect the rights of others to do the same." The machine intelligence processed this for several microseconds before responding. "An interesting proposal. We will consider it." Back on Earth, Captain Hyun-woo was much older now, his hair completely white, and his steps slower than they once were. But his mind was still sharp, and his memories of the long journey home remained clear. He stood in the memorial park that had been built where the old Dominion Council chambers once stood. The walls were covered with the names of every human who had died during the exile, and every human who had suffered under alien rule. His daughter Minji found him there, as she often did in the evenings. "Father," she said gently, "the council is meeting tomorrow to discuss the Mars terraforming project. They want your input." Mars, he mused, remembering the red planet as it had been when they left, and as they had found it when they returned. "Your children will swim in Martian oceans that don't exist yet. They'll breathe air that hasn't been made yet. They'll walk under skies that are still just dreams." "Were we too harsh?" Minji asked suddenly. "The aliens, I mean. Some of them were just following orders. Some of them didn't even know about the slavery, the genetic theft, the cultural genocide." Hyun-woo was quiet for a long time, watching the names on the memorial wall catch the light of the setting sun. "Do you know what the difference is between revenge and justice?" he finally asked. "Tell me." "Revenge is about making yourself feel better by making someone else suffer. Justice is about preventing future suffering by making sure the same crimes can never happen again." He turned to look at his daughter, seeing in her face the future of humanity, strong, confident, but still capable of questioning whether they had done the right thing. "We didn't exile the Dominion species because we wanted them to suffer the way we did. We exiled them because they had proven they could not be trusted to share the galaxy peacefully, and we kept the technology to track them, to make sure they never returned to threaten anyone again. Some people say we should have tried to reform them instead, teach them to be better." "With what right?" Hyun-woo asked. "They had millions of years to learn to be better on their own. They chose not to. It's not our responsibility to fix the moral failings of other species. It's our responsibility to protect ourselves and our allies from those failings." Chief Archivist Sung Jae was working late in the great library that had been built beneath the memorial park. His task was perhaps the most important of all, ensuring that the complete story of humanity's exile and return would never be lost or forgotten. Every detail was being recorded. Every battle, every discovery, every moment of triumph and tragedy. The genetic records of every enslaved human, the evidence of every crime committed by the Dominion, the proof of humanity's transformation during their time in the dark. "Future generations need to know," he muttered to himself as he worked. "Not just what happened, but why it happened. They need to understand the price of complacency, the cost of trusting those who see you as inferior." His work was almost done. The Great Archive would soon be complete, copies sent to every human world and every allied species. Never again would anyone be able to claim that humanity had never existed, or that the Dominion's crimes were just myths. The galaxy was vast, and there were still dark corners where the old ways might try to reassert themselves. There were still species that remembered the time when aliens ruled over humans, and who might dream of recreating that hierarchy. But now those dreams would remain forever, just dreams, because Earth's children had returned from the dark, stronger than ever, and they had no intention of ever leaving their home again. In space stations orbiting distant suns, human administrators worked alongside reformed aliens to build a new kind of civilization. On colony worlds throughout the galaxy, human children played with alien children, growing up in a universe where cooperation was rewarded and aggression was punished. And on Earth itself, in the city that had been built, on the ruins of alien occupation, President Nayun signed the final document establishing the new galactic charter. Let it be known throughout the galaxy, she declared, that the time of species-based hierarchy is ended. From this day forward, all beings will be judged not by what they are, but by what they choose to do. The document was transmitted instantly to every corner of human space, and from there to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. A simple message, but one that carried the weight of 500,000 years of exile and the strength of a species that had learned to survive anything the universe could throw at them. Humanity was home, the galaxy was at peace, and the children of Earth would make sure it stayed that way, forever.